Yeah, like the role. What's going on? Welcome to the first installment of the Changing the Narrative podcast. My name is Jalen Hughes. I'm your co-host for today. And to my right, we got
Keena, hey, good.
and we got a special guest for y'all today, okay? So like you guys know, Changing the Narrative was an initiative started in order to bring light and shed light on different perspectives in the community of Conway. So we're going to be having different guests that comes to talk to us and grace us with their presence and help us gain some knowledge from their experiences. And we hope that through this process, you guys are able to take something from what we're trying to do here, all right? So with that being said, we got a celebrity in the building, all right? So he's got a building named after him, man. He's an author. He's done some awesome stuff in the city of Conway. Man, we got Mr. Ronnie Williams in the building. Let's give it up for Mr. Williams. So we thought it was appropriate to start our first episode off with you, man, with all you've done in the city of Conway. And just so excited to be talking with you today. And we thank you for spending your time out here. I know we're outside at City Hall on the balcony. It's hot out here, but we appreciate you for taking some time to come talk to us.
My pleasure.
So if you want, man, just tell us a little bit about your story, man. And
Who is Mr. Ronnie Williams?
Well, listen, first of all, let me just commend you guys for furthering this conversation. It's very much needed, long overdue. So congratulations on the first podcast. But a little bit about Ronnie Williams. Ronnie is an old country guy, grew up in Menifee, Arkansas, and the youngest of 8 children born to John and D.V. Williams. I came from a long line of educators, and so education is in my blood, and was blessed to have spent 40 plus years in education, and of course 35 of that at the University of Central Arkansas.
okay. So at the University of Central Arkansas, what did you do there? So how did you make an impact?
That's the first time I met Mr. Williams. I knew his name for a newspaper.
Well, my first position was Director of Minority Affairs.
Okay.
So first Director of Minority Affairs, actually I didn't know what I was doing. What I did know was President Winfred Thompson, who was president at the time, wanted to, quote, change the narrative. He was not happy with the fact that African-American men were not graduating at a rate that was acceptable to the university. So he asked that we come in and develop programs and initiatives that would address that. And one of the first things we did was develop the Minority Mentorship Program, better known as MMP. And so, and then of course, during the next few years, I was able to work as an assistant to President Win Thompson for 4 years. And then for the next 25 years, I served as Vice President for Student Services.
That's awesome, man. So what are some of the most challenges you had dealing with, minorities and when you were at the University of Central Arkansas? So what were some of the challenges that you had to navigate or they had to navigate in order to graduate? So what were some of those barriers?
Sure. Yeah. Well, really the opportunity is to come in and get our African-American students, particularly African-American men, to focus on a number of things. Most important being is how to manage your time. You want to have a good experience. You want to come in and enjoy yourself, party on Thursday, Friday, but you got to set some time constraints as to how much time you're going to spend studying and getting ready to class. So what we tried to do is come in and bring in people that would help to continue that discussion. The mentorship program was to bring in professional men and women who look like African-American men and women. It's that old saying, if you want to be me, you got to see me. And so what we wanted to do is expose students to African-American professionals that had made it, and for them to share their story as to what they could do to achieve similar goals.
Gotcha.
And so that was a part of that journey.
Okay. All right. So what was the best piece of advice that you could give someone striving to be success, given what you just stated in your experiences to get to that point? So if we're going to bring your past experience to today for the kids of today, sure, if somebody is at home watching this, like what is some piece of advice you would give to them in order to help them navigate?
Yeah, I would say to them is set a goal. Know where it is. Know what you want to accomplish. Know where you want to go. And then the second thing I would say to them is be authentic. Don't try to reinvent yourself, spin yourself, redefine yourself into something that you are not. One of the things that people will always recognize a phony when they see it. So first of all, be you. Be who you are. Accept who you are and whose you are. The second thing that I would say is something I said to my 2 adult sons. They know it by heart, and that is that everybody who comes with you can go with you.
So I like that.
And that is not something. That's not to say that you're better than someone else, but you reach a point in life where you're trying to go to the next level. And some of the people that have come with you may not have the same goals and aspirations as you. So you've got to make a decision as to whether or not you need to love them from a distance, but continue on your course, your path to success. The last thing I'll say, and it's an old African American proverb, is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So while you are limiting some of your homies that you brought with you,
I like the way you phrased that, the home.
as you continue on that path, you've got to expand your center of influence. If you're the smartest person in your group,
You're in the wrong group.
you're in the wrong group. Your group is too small. So you've got to expand your group to include resources, human and otherwise. You've got to expand your group so that you can network within that larger group. So that's kind of a Ronnie Williams.
It's good. That's good.
But that's some of the things I would say to students that are wanting to be successful and developing a plan, and then understanding that there are some weights that you have to release, but there's also larger groups that you have to embrace.
Yes, I agree with that. I love it. So set a goal, be authentic, and then you just gotta know who to take with you, who not to take with you.
Correct.
I think that's one of the things as Black men that we struggle with is sometimes we want to take too many people with us.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't want
Absolutely.
to see our friends fall by the wayside. But,
Right.
but
Right.
you're exactly right. And then diversifying. That's one thing I really try to focus on myself is trying to diversify not only my goals or aspirations, but my circle of influence as well.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm sitting here with Mr. Ronnie Williams.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, as you expand those your center, you'll find some wonderful mentors. I was blessed to have, and I'll tell you this: when I entered higher education, I was breaking, as my dad used to say, plowing new ground at UCA, being the first African American to serve at the vice presidential level. And there weren't many African American men who were at that level at predominantly white institutions. There were just 3 of us. There was Charles Donaldson at UALR and Dr. Mosey Richmond at ASU. And I leaned on both of those men quite heavily as mentors, as someone I could pick up the phone and say, hey, look, I'm dealing with this. Give me some advice.
Because there's very limited resources.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Person that.
So how do we create those opportunities? Like to piggyback off what you said, like, so how do we place our young men in a position in order to find these mentors? Because oftentimes they find mentors who may not be the best mentors, but how do we situate them in the best spots to be able to get access to a Ronnie Williams?
Yeah. I think part of it is people like Ronnie Williams and Pastor Maltbia and Preston and all these others. I think we have to play a role in that. I think we have to reach out and find our young men and women where they are, is meet them where they are, not waiting on them to reach to us. But I think it's incumbent upon us to reach them and find them and to be available and let them know that we are a resource for you. And so I think that's part of that discussion as well.
I got you. So with that being said, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that young African-American men face today?
Those challenges are multifaceted. There are external challenges and there are internal challenges. External challenges, there are systemic inequities that exist in our society. I mean, we don't have to sugarcoat that. That's there. They're there economically. They're there in terms of various systems, particularly the justice system that I had some experience with. And so, those barriers exist. But then there are also the internal challenges that deal with self-esteem and having a healthy self-concept. and to dealing with some of the negative stereotypes.
That's right.
There are stereotypical attitudes that exist out there. When they see African American male or female, they immediately think certain things: violent, intellectually deficient, all of the other things. And so, but I will tell you, I'm happy to report that, while those systemic inequities exist, there are some data points that are out there that exist that suggest that we are starting to get our act together, that we are spending more time with our kids, that we are finishing high school, that we're going to college at a higher rate. So all of those things, that gives me hope to let us know that while, yeah, there's some challenges, internal and external, but there are some things that we're doing good, and I think we ought to celebrate those things whenever we have an opportunity to do it.
Got you. Yes, sir. And being that you're from Conway, so how long have you been living?
Actually, I grew up in Menifee.
Got you. Okay, so how long have you been in Conway?
That's God's country.
Temporal. But how long have you been a resident?
Well, actually, I'm still a resident outside of Conway.
Got you.
I'm not in City, but Conway is like home, and gosh, 40 years, a long time.
So
It's longer than some of you guys have.
So there's a story that I think we're all here familiar with too, that I would like to kind of just expound on, the story with your brother. Did I get that right? So if you can explain kind of just what happened, and then I've always wanted to ask you this. So I want to know how that changed your perspective on a certain thing growing up, and did that have a part in the direction you chose to take in your life?
Because you're successful. You could have gone either way.
Exactly.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Listen, Markham Street and the story of my brother really changed me. To be honest, I did not know the truth about my brother until I was 32 years old, married with two small children at the time. And I was working professionally when a one-armed white guy by the name of Charles Hackney, who could no longer live with himself. Charles Hackney was incarcerated in a jail, in a cell adjacent to where my brother was incarcerated in the Faulkner County Courthouse.
Really?
The fourth floor of the Faulkner County Courthouse is where my brother was murdered.
Wow.
And so it took Charles Hackney 24 years to come to himself. He could no longer live with himself. He sent my father a letter on August 4th, 1984, telling us, informing us of what happened with Marvin. He told us he was in a cell adjacent to Marvin, and that the two officers came in and beat my brother to death. So Marvin was arrested on the night of May 5th, 1960 on Markham Street. So there is a 3-story building that is recently built on Markham Street.
Yes, sir.
That is where the Sunset Cafe was positioned in 1960. Markham Street was the social and economic hub for Black people in Conway. And so on that night, Marvin and three of his friends were parked on that street in his 1953 Chevrolet Bel Air coupe, eggshell white. And he was parked on there, and so the officers came to his car, and he was unlawfully removed along with his friend Joe Flakes, taken to the Faulkner County Courthouse. The next morning, he is dead. He died. He had a 4-inch fracture to the base of his skull. He had cuts, abrasions, and contusions to his face that are visible. If you read the book and you've looked in the appendix of the book, I captured some of the photos, and so you'll see. So on that night, he was murdered, and that started a cover-up that lied. The individuals, the people in positions of responsibility, lied about the cause and the manner of his death.
Yeah.
So we were able to, in February 5th of 2015, the Lord called me. He spoke to me. He knew I had to do some things. I was not healed from what I learned and from some of the disappointments we went through in our attempts to get justice. And so we spent, for the next 5.5 years, writing and researching Markham Street. So we finished in the fall of 2021. And I can't tell you the number of people that have reached out to me, in-state, out-of-state, that have read the book. So we continue to get requests to speak. In fact, I got a call this week about a call to come to Kansas City to speak in January.
Wow.
Mm.
That is awesome.
So we're thankful. I'm sorry to go on.
Oh man, no, you good, man. That's awesome, man. So don't want to spend too much of your time, but here at Changing the Narrative, we always like to ask one last question that has to do with kind of our whole purpose here. And I'm gonna let Keenan do the honors of asking you the last question and let you go.
It's very simple. It's what's your opinion of or your perception of changing the narrative? What does that mean to you for our community of Conway? What does that look like?
Well, I think it looks a lot about what we're doing right now. That is to have serious conversations about perceptions that exist. While we are all disappointed with what we saw in those videos, nothing hurt me more than to see young African-American men and women getting together with and then seeing people brandishing weapons, automatic weapons, and seeing that image.
Yeah.
And knowing what that image does in continuing to feed and to filter in to a certain stereotype. So what I love and what I appreciate is the fact that young African-American men like yourself reached out, grabbed that narrative and say, you know what? This is not how we want to be defined. This is not the end of the story. There are young African-American men and women who want to be contributors to society, who are contributing, who are doing positive things. And those are the things we want to focus on. So for me, it is continuing the conversation and making certain we challenge the stereotypes that exist in our society.
That's awesome.
Mr. Williams, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time so much. All right. So that's all we got here for the first episode. We're going to wrap it out. Thank y'all for tuning in and make sure y'all hit subscribe and y'all follow us. Appreciate y'all.